Well, at the start of the Warriors' 8-game homestand, people were happy. The Warriors looked good. But over the last 2 games, against the Detroit Pistons, now against the Orlando Magic, not as good. They've lost 2 in a row. Tonight's game was ugly. It was disappointing. I'm going to break it down, explain maybe why they lost. Not a lot to look at in terms of positives, folks. And truth is, the Golden State Warriors are about to reach the halfway point of this season, and they're sitting at 500. All right, things are not great. There's a lot to talk about. It's Saturday Night Live. I'm Solo. I'm feeling a little feisty. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Twitter at Dog Surf Roadshow. It's a live show. I got the stream going. I would love your input. Hello, everyone. Dennis B, do you want me to start with you? A Lamb apology? Hell no. How about this? How about you apologize for being a Lamb apologist? Because while Anthony Lamb did have a solid first half, it was actually a great first half. He went 5 for 10 from beyond the arc. But in the second half, and this has been something I've been criticizing these two-way players about all season, the stats mask the fact that they routinely do not come through when needed, all right? These are inopportune scores. Anthony Lamb in the second half was 0 for 4. At 6'5", he was 1 for 2 on 2-point shots, with one of those shots being blocked. And most importantly, folks, my barometer for any judgment when it comes to a roster, when it comes to the NBA, when it comes to teams, is wins and losses, all right? The Warriors are 20-20. They just lost 2 games in a row at home. I understand the injuries are a big deal, but this Warriors team in all the years of success have relied on that cliche that rings true, strength in numbers. You can throw all those worthless stats that you want, Dennis B, and anyone else talking about Anthony Lamb, because the only stat that mattered is the win and the loss. They lost tonight. They've lost 2 games in a row now. And the fact that the Warriors are relying on these two-way players is not a recipe for success. Regardless of what happens, in all likelihood, both these players are going to be off the roster for the postseason, right? It would shock me if both these players were signed to guarantee deals for the postseason. Maybe one, I could see it, but I highly doubt it's going to happen for both because you'd have to cut a player. I don't see the Warriors cutting JaMychal Green. The more I'm hearing and discussing, that's probably not going to happen. And regardless, this is probably the more important point about Anthony Lamb and Ty Jerome. If you're relying on them in the postseason, you're not repeating as world champions. Plain and simple. So I am not apologizing, first of all, to any player that I ever criticize on this show, just because this is a sports talk show. Criticism is part of the game. So in that rare moment, if I am wrong, I'll admit it. I've admitted it in the past, but I'm certainly not going to apologize for a critique that may not be entirely astute. But I will say this. I don't think my criticism of those two players is unfounded. They're fine. I don't mind them being on the team. I don't mind them being a part of the roster. But I don't like the fact that in tonight's stat sheet, when I'm studying the Warriors, again, who lost tonight, 115-101 at home. I haven't looked at the standings yet to see if the Warriors have lost the title of best home team in the NBA, but that's a 2-game losing streak at home now. The 2 teams they lost to, the Detroit Pistons, they're pursuing Wembanyama, and the Orlando Magic, who sort of are in that similar boat. The Orlando Magic are, after tonight, 15-25 on the year. The Warriors, even with Steph Curry, even with Klay Thompson out, should not be losing these games. And when I look at a stat sheet and I'm seeing Moses Moody, who I've had one person on Twitter tonight say they don't think he's quote unquote earned the minutes on this team. What do you base that on? That's entirely subjective. Moses Moody tonight played 9 minutes and 8 seconds. That's it. All this strategy does is kill his confidence. All this strategy does is prevent development of a lottery pick who has a far higher upside than the two-way players. A player who, if you actually develop him, can come through a lot more than the two-way players in the postseason where it counts. A player who, by the way, started, 2 or 3 postseason games in the Western Conference Finals against the Dallas Mavericks. So I don't agree with that. And ultimately, all of my critique, everything I ever say on the show comes down to one simple thing: wins and losses. All right? The Golden State Warriors right now are lucky because in the Western Conference, a lot of other teams are struggling right now. So the Warriors entering tonight were the 6th seed despite being 20-19. They're now 20-20 for a team that's pursuing a repeat world championship. I personally just do not find that acceptable. I'm not cool with that. And for anyone who's saying Moody isn't good enough, like Tote McGoat right here, or Tote the Goat, why? What do you base that on? Just your opinion? Because look, I'll give you the stats, for example, right? Moses Moody, from last year to this year, his field goal percentage has increased from 43.7% last year as a shooter to 45.7%. Last year, he was a 36.4 three-point shooter. This year, he's a 37.2% three-point shooter. His scoring average has gone up from 4.4 to 5.4. Super meager, but then when you consider he's only playing 15.4 minutes per game, you start averaging that up. If he's playing 25 minutes, he might be averaging double figures. The point is, we don't know because he doesn't play consistently. He doesn't play enough. And I'm just not a fan of this strategy. I'm not. And the bottom line is, for anyone who's sitting here defending what's going on with this team this year, they're 20-20. And they've just lost 2 straight games at home. All right. This is not something that people should just be like content with. Sorry if standards from my perspective are ridiculously high, because this is a dynasty, folks. I want to start things off, though, by playing some sound from Steve Kerr, because what was a huge shock to the system, I think, if you're a Warriors fan or if you're just an NBA fan, if you're just watching this game tonight, was the fact that Klay Thompson last minute was pulled from the game. It was incredibly last minute. No one even knew why he wasn't playing at first. And then here's Steve Kerr after the game going into detail about why Klay was pulled, the condition of his knee. This is the same knee, by the way, that 3.5 years ago he had the torn ACL and the reconstructive surgery after that. So here is Kerr explaining what exactly is going on with Klay Thompson.
Klay obviously didn't play with left knee soreness. Did that come up after warm-ups? Has it been lingering?
Yeah, it got sore during warm-ups, and the training staff looked at him and just, for precautionary reasons, kept him out of the game.
Not long-term concern?
No.
Did he get any, testing on it? Do you know?
I don't know. Yeah. The training staff just said we're going to keep him out because it's bothering him and precautionary.
He and Klay Thompson looked bummed. Like he had. It's funny how he shows his emotions. You can just read on his face how he's feeling. He was pissed. And look, Klay entering tonight has, especially during this homestand, has been playing some fantastic basketball. He's averaging 33.6 points per game during the homestand, which strongly contradicts how he played on the road in that 6-game road trip before this. And what's particularly staggering is the last 4 games, Klay has had the highest scoring average of his career over a 4-game stretch. That's insane. So losing him suddenly, especially when he's been on a roll, he's clearly been feeling it. He can't be happy. No one is happy about this. And that was a huge bummer. And so we saw Dante DiVincenzo in the starting lineup, last minute scratch again for Klay. So that was certainly an eye-opener. We're going to talk about Andre Iguodala because this is his first game all season. We're going to talk about Andrew Wiggins, his first game back after missing 15 games due to a myriad of issues, including an abdominal issue, illness. But what I really want to touch on, because tonight All the people who are complaining about Jordan Poole and the pool party struggling, the turnovers, the poor shot taking, that rung true to me tonight. I was watching him closely, and he's struggling, and we got to talk about him. We're going to do that in just a moment. First, I got to give some love to a relatively new sponsor. That's TurboTax. Is tax season already here? That is frightening stuff, folks. Look, go to TurboTax and don't do your taxes. Meet with an expert who'll do them for you. TurboTax experts can relieve you from the stress of taxes and file for you so you can do not taxes. Show your eyes things that are not taxes. Unpack a moving box of not taxes. Taste not taxes. Sing not taxes a lullaby. Hope not taxes sleeps through the night. Grab a saddle and ride not taxes into the sunset. With the TurboTax 100% expert guarantee, an expert will do your taxes from start to finish so you can relax. Feels good to be done with your taxes, doesn't it? Come to TurboTax and don't do your taxes. Visit TurboTax.com to learn more. Intuit TurboTax, full service products only, video meeting while expert does your taxes required. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. So Jordan Poole has to be brought up because this was not a great game for him tonight. In fact, this was not a great game for the Warriors in general. There's going to be a lot of stats. By the way, AC, yeah, that commercial, that TurboTax commercial, that you do use the word tax a lot. It's a script. I got to read it. But as they say, repetition oftentimes leads to effective marketing. So that's probably what was going on there. So Jordan Poole. Now, until tonight, I've been a very staunch defender of him. And I'm still in the big picture. Look, the Warriors, his brand new contract doesn't even kick in until next year. He's a starter unless you have the Splash Brothers, then he's your sixth man. He's entrenched. He's a part of this team. You live and die with him. Last year, they won a championship with him, and he played a relatively pivotal role in all that. So it's not like you have options here. It's not like you could say, all right, we're just going to, sit you for a week, or you're just going to get benched and not see any minutes. You can't roll like that. This is where coaching comes into play. This is where introspection comes into play. This is where film study comes into play. This is where clearly only those internally have the true answers for this. But I do want to read his struggles lately because they're real. And more specifically over the last 10 games. All right. His scoring average is fine. He's averaging over the last 10 games 28.6 points per game. That's solid. I mean, the most important stat besides wins and losses, but as an individual, is clearly points. That's how you win games, right? So when you're averaging 28.6, that's a strong clip. But then the moment you start looking into it, you see, for example, the three-point percentage, and that's been really abysmal. He's only shooting the last 10 games 28.6%. All right, that's not good. That is just not good. And again, we don't know what the answer to that is in terms of how to fix that. Now, like Stephen Curry, his whole mantra when he's quote unquote struggling is just to continue shooting, right? He also puts in a lot of extra hours in the gym when he's going through a slump. Klay Thompson has attested to the same thing. Jordan Poole's work ethic has never been in question. It's actually been one of the most remarkable things about him. Him and Stephen Curry are always the first two people to be at the practice facilities. They're always the last two to leave the facilities. And in fact, that's one thing, for all the criticism I've given Anthony Lamb, I do have to give him a lot of kudos. His work ethic, I strongly believe, is a huge reason why he's getting the minutes he's getting. He is following a regimen similar to Steph and Jordan Poole. So props to Lamb for that. But Poole, I don't know. The problem is the moment you try to control a player like Jordan Poole in terms of his shot selection, you're now getting into his mind. And that's the last thing you want to do is mess with an individual's confidence. But 28.6% from beyond the arc. And that's one of two really like eye-opening, concerning stats. The other one is turnovers. And the Warriors tonight were killed in the turnover game. Jordan Poole over the last 10 games is averaging 4.9 turnovers per game. In tonight's matchup, if I look at the stat sheet right now, he had 4 turnovers. So actually below his average over the last 10, but still 4 is not something to be proud of either. That's a lot of turnovers. So he's averaging 4.9 turnovers over the last 10 games. And when you look at these 3-point numbers in terms of what he's heating up over the last 10 games, I just want to read these real quick because they're not good. I mean, they're like abysmally bad numbers. So over the last 10, and I'm gonna go all the way back to, I guess, the New York Knicks game, where from beyond the arc he went 2 for 8. The next game was the Brooklyn Nets. He shot 1 for 11 from 3. Against the Memphis Grizzlies, a huge statement game that the Warriors won. He was 3 for 10. Against the Charlotte Hornets, 1 for 7. Against the Utah Jazz, 2 for 10. The only decent night he's had during the stretch was at home against the Portland Trailblazers. He shot 50% from beyond the arc in that game. He was 5 for 10. Then against the Atlanta Hawks, 2 for 12, 16.7% shooting. Against the Detroit Pistons, a game they lost, 3 of 10. And then tonight he was 2 for 11 from beyond the arc. Meanwhile, during the same stretch, turnovers. Against the Knicks, he had 4, 7, 5. 3 is all right against Charlotte. Not great, but it's okay. 6 against Utah. 7 turnovers against the Trailblazers. 6 turnovers against the Hawks. And then 3 and 4 when it comes to the Pistons and the Magic. The point is, that's got to get fixed. Okay, that's just got to get fixed. I mean, I don't, I actually think his defense has been doing okay, relatively speaking, by his standards. But those numbers I just read off, like, that's the kind of shooting he was pulling his rookie year. Like, made everyone cringe, right? I don't know if shot selection is the answer to that. His form does look a little weird. Yeah, and Jamie U 22, where you write Miss Kuminga. I agree. He was missed tonight, and I'll touch on that in just a moment. But Jordan Poole really has to do something about that shot. And Bruce Morrow writes that he's trying too hard, and that's what's killing him. His slippery sneakers. I don't know about that, but yeah, I hear what you're saying. So, regardless, like, again, this is where, look, man, if whether you're a head coach, whether you're an assistant coach, whether it's Jama Malalela, whether it's Kenny Atkinson, there's a staff of 5 or 6 assistants there. This is what you're paid to do. You work with Jordan Poole and figure something out, please, because that needs to change. Now, the Warriors tonight were crushed in 2 huge categories, and I do have to touch on this and this leads to Jonathan Kuminga, I think, in a lot of ways. The Warriors were absolutely slaughtered tonight when it comes to points in the paint. Easily was the difference in this whole game. In terms of points in the paint, a stat that I just had in front of me, and now it's like went poof on me. I believe they were outscored. Oh, I found it here. Points in the paint. The Magic shot 26 of 41 inside the paint. 52 points. Almost close to half of their total tonight was just near the rim. The Warriors only scored 26. So the Magic literally doubled the Golden State Warriors points in the paint tonight, 52-26. Now, if you're asking yourself, okay, how do we fix that? Like, why did that happen? That's where Jonathan Kuminga is missed. That's a huge part of why he has risen tremendously this season. I mean, he went from being a player who, you were really impressed with his dunks. You were impressed with his athleticism. He showed flashes of having really strong feel for the game. But clearly, Kerr was not having whatever Kuminga was doing. And so we've seen this kind of, evolution in his game where he's focusing a lot more on defense, a lot more on rebounding. He's a 6'8", Adonis of an athlete. And so he was missed. And another player that was missed tonight, and this is a very polarizing figure, but James Wiseman. We saw him in that Memphis game. That Memphis game was huge. Excuse me, doing this solo can be tricky at times. And I feel like Wiseman was missed as well. He could have helped. But this is also, and look, I'm not trying to like bash on Anthony Lamb. I'm just trying to let people know that this is the limitation of relying so much on a player like Lamb, who in tonight's game, again, he had a solid game. All right. And we'll touch on him in just a second in terms of his production, because he did play 33 minutes tonight. He had a career night. But again, at 6'5", there's only so much you can do. I mean, defensively, people just shoot routinely over him. He's pretty slow-footed, so also defensively, like, he can be a liability. But on a night like tonight where you're missing Kuminga, you're missing Wiseman, Kevon Looney, for some reason, just, did not bring it, at least not offensively. He was okay, but certainly wasn't dominating in the paint. He only scored 7 points on 2 shots. Draymond Green, was relatively absent tonight. Draymond, in fact, looked like he was having a lot of problems with Paolo Banchero. I mean, I rarely, if ever, see Draymond Green frustrated the way he was. You didn't hear him talking that much. That's always like a huge flag, is when his mouth is shut. That's because he's having a hard night. He's battling, and Banchero just really schooled him. Banchero had 25 points, 5 rebounds, and Draymond Green, meanwhile, finished the game with 5 points. 5 rebounds, 6 assists, nothing abnormal in terms of his stat sheet. But from the eye test, watching him play tonight, again, Banchero was just really schooling him. And I'll try to pull up some of the stats on Draymond's defense in terms of the last night's game. And the NBA is where usually you find those individual matchup type stats, but those don't come out till the next day. But getting killed in the paint like that's just brutal. And this is where, Kylan Mills, my partner in crime on this show, she's been harping all year about the Warriors needing another big. And tonight was an example of that. The Lakers are bringing in DeMarcus Cousins for a tryout. They're likely going to sign him. This is a former member of the Warriors, and supposedly Steve Kerr and him have some sort of issue. I don't think it's anything serious. It could be just philosophical, but the Warriors want nothing to do with DeMarcus Cousins, and they don't want anything to do with anybody, apparently. Because they rarely, if ever, make, pool midseason trades. They rarely, go to the buyout market to find another big. But this is the price you're paying for small ball. You have nights like this. And again, it really hurt, though, that they did not have Wiseman and Kuminga. When we come back, I'm going to see what people have been saying. Yeah, Lloyd T, you're absolutely correct. Kerr is anti-bigs. And Tony, I'm not crying until the cows come home about the Warriors getting it big. They're not making a move. You're going to live and die with this roster. I'm happy with Wiseman. I'm okay with him playing those 5 to 10 minutes, just grabbing rebounds, at least being a presence inside to make shots difficult for the other team, right? At a bare minimum, that's what you get for having a 7-footer out there. But it would be nice if they, at least considered it, or at least, we got some speculation out there that they're thinking about getting somebody. But 52-26 in the paint, that is just brutal. And we're going to have a lot more shows still to come. One thing that is for certain tonight, the Orlando Magic ate their Built Bars, and the Golden State Warriors, I don't know why. Maybe they don't shop at Walmart, because now you can actually find Built Bars at Walmart, Sam's Club. But this is what happens. The Orlando Magic eat their Built Bars and they beat the Golden State Warriors. It's that simple. And I'm totally making all of that up, but it sounds real. It's believable. And look, Built Bars are absolutely delicious. And one of the biggest reasons why they're so appealing, and they're yummy, but what makes them really amazing is, on average, each bar has 17 grams of protein. And at the same time, besides being covered in 100% real chocolate, you only get 4 grams of sugar on average per bar. Sugar is a toxin, folks. It's a carcinogenic. It's just not something your body should be consuming. And I know that's easier said than done. So Built Bars are low in sugar. They're low in calories. On average, only 130. They got a ton of yummy flavors. And just head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. They're, of course, still available online as well at Built.com. And if you're close to Sam's Club, run in, grab a 13-bar box with their hit flavors, brownie batter, and churro, and you can thank us later.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. I'm laughing because Andre throwing some digs at James Wiseman, writing, when I see Wiseman with his stupid hair, I just wish he was on it. I hope you're not really judging people based on their hairstyle out there. Maybe I shouldn't be laughing so hard at that, but that was kind of funny. It was just so random. So Anthony Lamb, real quick, just to wrap it up again. Career night for him, and kudos. He finished the game with a career high 26 points, grabbed 8 rebounds. I'll say this about Anthony Lamb tonight that I actually really liked, which is he attacked the paint a few times. He attacked the rim, I'm sorry, from the post. He's 6'5". That's a huge limitation, but he is strong. He's got an inside presence. He's a decent rebounder. And I would like it if he muscled his way in there, a la like Charles Barkley style, because they're pretty much the same height. He doesn't have Chuck's athleticism, but you don't really need that to have a good post game. And there were a few times tonight where he was attacking the paint, making easy buckets. I would like to see more of that. Anthony Lamb had a terrific first half, an unbelievable first half. He was 5 for 10 from beyond the arc. I think he hit his first 4 threes. It was 3 or 4. I can't remember which one. And he was lighting it up. But then the second half comes. He was 0 for 4 from beyond the arc. He was only 1 for 6 from the field. So basically he only made 1 shot, and that was a layup. And his only other 2-point attempt was a layup attempt that was blocked, which again highlights that 6'5" limitation. And that's where I feel like, look, if that outside shot is not falling and you're as strong as you are, attack the paint, attack the rim, get inside. He does have a good feel for the game down low. So, I'll give him his credit for that. And then I want to give credit as well to Dante DiVincenzo. I thought, dude, I love this guy. I really hope the Golden State Warriors present some sort of contract extension. I'm not counting on it. But it would be so amazing. I would love to see this kid be a long-term fixture of the Golden State Warriors. Had another great night, 15 points, 5 for 12 from the field. All his 5 shots were 3-point attempts. He was actually 5 for 11 from deep, and then had an extra field goal attempt from 2 that he missed. And he also grabbed 8 rebounds. He's actually been doing a phenomenal job as a rebounder this season. I want to pull up his numbers real quick, because his season average in rebounding, so it's at 4.6, but over the last 10, he's averaging 6 rebounds per game. So it's almost like a skill set that he's actually building as the season goes on. So, all right, let's see what's going on here in the chat real quick before we call it a night. I'm going to bounce over, by the way, to the Krug Show with my friend Larry Kruger. If you folks want to continue this there, the traveling, let me see if I can pronounce this correctly. The traveling Urquidez writes, I think Myers goes to the Lakers. Kylan and I feel like we touched on this subject in great detail on Friday's show, but I don't mind bringing it up again. The fact that Lacob has tried now twice, this is according to Joe Lacob, the fact that on 2 different occasions now, they've offered Bob Myers a contract extension and he turned it down is alarming. That is like that's not normal. I decided to actually reach out to a lot of insiders, even a couple of former execs, just to kind of get their feel for how normal or abnormal this is. This is abnormal. Okay. This is now look, he could easily come back and all this anxiety over the possibility of losing Bob Myers could be for naught, but this is not normal. And no cap 757. If you're right, you wrote that that Lacob. I'll read verbatim what you wrote. Lacob is lowballing him as he should. He's not good. Look at this roster. Dude, I mean, he's literally overseeing a dynasty. You got to give him credit for that. I mean, and in all honesty, there's been a clear chasm between Bob Myers and Kerr. And maybe the more accurate way of describing that would be the front office and Kerr. We don't really know if Bob Myers' vision is successful or not because Kerr doesn't like it. This is the first time in the dynasty where they've had two different visions this year. And we don't know if it's financial based. We don't know if it's just subjective based in terms of ownership and or Myers really liking lottery picks and wanting to see them play more. Kerr doesn't. So I don't know if you can blame Myers for this roster, given Kerr is not putting on the canvas everything that Myers wants painted, if that makes sense. And Toast the Goat writes, this dynasty was handed to him. Stephen Curry was handed to him. Now, you could make the argument Stephen Curry is the dynasty. If that's what you're saying, yeah, then you're right. But Bob Myers, under his regime, they drafted everyone else. So, and he also hired Steve Kerr. So I don't know if you can really say that. I also don't know. I agree that this roster is lacking, but again, in Bob Myers' vision, James Wiseman's getting 15 to 25 minutes a night. Jonathan Kuminga is getting, 15 to 30 minutes a night. Moses Moody the same. That's not Kerr's vision. They have different visions this year. I'm of the belief that if the team had followed Bob Myers' vision from the start, they would be much better off right now. That's my opinion on it. There's no way any of us can be right or wrong because this is all just conjecture. But regardless, the fact that Myers might leave is kind of crazy. Coach K, I like trade proposals. Coach K writes, Andrew Wiggins and James Wise. Wow, you're already like trading Wiggins, huh? Okay, so sorry, that's just kind of crazy to me. Andrew Wiggins and James Wiseman and Jonathan Kuminga for Siakam and Anunoby. No, thank you. No, I'm going to pass on that. That's just too much to give up. How about another trade proposal? And Nick J writes, by the way, I'm not that Bob Myers is holding out for a lifetime supply of Built Bars. You never know. So Coach K, another trade proposal, Wiggins and Wiseman and Kuminga again. So you have no strong feelings about any of those three. For Vucevic and Patrick Williams, hell no, dude. I like Patrick Williams, but Vucevic is on an expiring deal. He's an overrated big. He plays no defense. No, you can't do that. Ask for more, Coach K. That's what I would recommend. If you're going to be like presenting those three players, an all-star in Wiggins, a potential future all-star in Kuminga and Wiseman, who knows? Doubtful at this point, but you never know. You got to ask for more. You got to get more back. Come on. Yeah. And exactly. Bruce Morrow writes, Wiggins will not be traded. He's not going to get traded, especially considering that he agreed to that contract extension, which so favored the Golden State Warriors. He's not going anywhere. I would agree with that. So Nick J writes, dude, yeah, bring these trade proposals, man. I love these. Wiseman, Moody, and a first rounder for Jared Vanderbilt. Let me real quickly look up Jared Vanderbilt's contract, because I don't have that in front of me, and that is a vitally important variable in making this assessment. And usually the website I go to for this information is Spot Track. Their information is verifiable and it's easy to see. All right, so Jared Vanderbilt will be an unrestricted free agent after next year. So his salary next year is only going to be $4.6 million. All right, so it's incredibly cap friendly. I'm trying to see if so he will be an unrestricted free agent though after next year. So there is that possibility you lose him in a little over a year, which is a bit concerning. With that said, I'll say this, I wouldn't hate it. And like if the Warriors pull that trade, it's not like I'd be like, all right, let's roll. Let's see how this goes. I like Vanderbilt a lot. I think Vanderbilt would be an excellent addition to this team. Bruce Morrow writes, you guys really hate Wiseman. I don't count me in that. I like, look, the part of this whole season that rubs me the wrong way is I want to see these guys play real minutes for extended periods of time before making judgments on them. Right. I don't think Wiseman is Marvin Bagley bad, where you just know immediately that it's not going to work. I don't see that. That's not a correlation to me. I need to see Wiseman play some real minutes over an extended period of time. And then if you're not seeing growth, if you're not seeing production at that point, fine, then judge him. But right now, I mean, you see him for like spot minutes. How can you judge him? You just can't judge him right now. No cap. Can you repeat your last chat, or let me see what I can find here? This is a live show, trying to keep this professional. And I cannot find what your last chat is. Oh, here. Look back on my last chat. This bench versus this one. You're killing my show, man. You're killing the show. Come on, what are you doing here? All right, so I'm gonna go over to the Larry Krueger show. Join me there. The party's gonna continue on. It's Saturday night. So we'll see how it goes. But look, realistically, this is the bottom line here. Okay, let's just stick to facts for a moment. The Warriors, in all likelihood, outside of this upcoming road trip being just a complete disaster, because the competition is so weak that if they're losing to like the Spurs on the road and those kind of games, outside of some sort of disaster like that, we're probably not going to see a trade. Okay, like history says, Bob Myers, the front office, ownership, they don't like making trades in the middle of the season. The one exception to that was the Andrew Wiggins trade, where they gave up D'Angelo Russell. And that was a lost season. That was a move made for the long term. So outside of that, they don't make changes. This is an organization that likes to just stick with what they have and build on that. And look, it's a formula that's worked. How can you hate on it? So this is the team. And right now, look, they're 20-20. They still own the worst road record in the NBA. They got one more game on this homestand. Tuesday in Phoenix. That's a game that I'm going to be going to. I haven't been to a game in a while, partly because I got this awesome English bulldog this year, but he's like a puppy, and it's a lot of work. And then I also have to find a place to live. I'm sorry to get all personal here, but point is, I'm going to a game on Tuesday, and then after that, the Warriors are on a 5-game road stretch. And folks, if they're struggling, if there's, let's say, like 2-3 games below 500 at the conclusion of that road trip, which, by the way, is going to be in Cleveland, and that game follows a game in Boston, they got to make changes. This is not a team that resembles a world championship squad. A lot of people are kind of, trying to find comfort in the idea that they're good enough, as all they got to do is make the playoffs. It doesn't matter what seed they are. I think it does matter a little bit. First of all, this is a team that clearly does not play well on the road. So I would imagine they want to have some sort of home court advantage. This is also a team that is just really wearing the tires on their veterans. I mean, my expectation coming into the season was Steph, Klay, Dre, Wiggins, they would not be logging 35, 40-minute nights, that they'd be putting in more like 25, 30-minute nights, taking a lot of nights off, not because of injury, so that they're rested for the postseason. That is not how this team is rolling this year. So the difference between a play-in and just, getting in as a 6 seed or higher could be huge. That 1-2 game difference, when you're talking about energy levels that are not infinite, could play a factor in all this. It's all I'm saying. I'm just not super happy right now is what I'm trying to say. And if you're a member of Dub Nation and you're really looking at this team and you're aspiring for a repeat world championship, there should be a little concern there. This team has to make some tweaks, has to do something. And let's just hope Kerr & Company does that. Kurt should never forget. Shane West writes, he teamed up with a tall guy named Luke Longley. You're absolutely correct. Toast the goats rice. No one is happy side. I mean, look, the bright side, let's finish on a positive note. The bright side to all this is when you look at the standings for the Western Conference right now, and this is why the Warriors aren't doing a damn thing. The Warriors, even after tonight, with a 500 record, are currently tied for the 7th seed. They're a half game behind the Clippers for the 6th seed. They're a game and a half behind the Sacramento Kings for the 5th seed. Is anyone out there, even with everything going on, that panicked about the Warriors not being able to catch up to the Sacramento Kings. No disrespect to Mike Brown, but I do think the Warriors are a better team than the Kings. And then the Warriors currently right now are 3 games back of the Dallas Mavericks for the 4th seed. That gap is starting to grow. The Dallas Mavericks are on a run right now. They've won 8 of their last 10. And I think realistically, like as the season progresses, like that 4th seed and higher could start to become like an unattainable mark. So if you're the Warriors, you're hoping for a 5 seed, for a 6 seed. Anyways, but whatever. I really think ultimately the goal should be just don't get into the play-in or avoid the play-in. Make that the goal for the regular season. And then from there, hopefully, good things happen. And totally, Shane, absolutely. Ty Jerome Max contract. I'm so with you. He needs to rename himself Cy Jerome first. And Ray, by the way, all kidding aside, makes a great point that the problems with this team ultimately are defense. The Warriors' defense is not that good this year. And one example of that, I'm glad you brought that up, Rave. I'll end on this note. The game of basketball, we've seen these staggering scoring numbers this year, right? So, for example, if you look at the NBA's scoring leaders, and I'll pull up right now who the top 5 are, just in scoring individually. Luka Doncic right now leads the NBA in scoring at 34 points per game. That's a huge number. Number 2, Joel Embiid, 33.5. Number 3, Giannis Antetokounmpo is averaging 32 points per game. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is averaging 30.9 points per game. Jason Tatum is 5th in the NBA in scoring at 30.7. Kevin Durant is 6th at 30 points per game. Stephen Curry is currently out of this because of the number of games he's missed due to injury, but I believe Steph is also averaging 30. So if you count them in there, that's 7 players who are currently at the midway point of the NBA season. We're only a game out from that, who are averaging 30 points or more per year. I don't think that's ever happened. Like if this holds, this will clearly be a record set in terms of the number of players who are averaging 30 or more points per game. And that also extends to team offense. Like right now, if you look at the stat leaders for offense, for scoring, right now, the number 1 offense in the NBA, the Boston Celtics, they average 118.7 points per game. The Warriors right now, offensively, they're 4th, averaging 117.2. But my point is the worst offense in the NBA right now are the Miami Heat. They average 108.9. In years past, bad offensive teams usually were averaging in the 90s, right? There were seasons, I remember, where bad teams were averaging 80-something points per game. Offenses have skyrocketed, and a huge reason for that is that players have really figured out the spacing on the floor. Obviously, the three-point shooting has drastically improved, and that balance, that line between the three-point shot and recognizing the right amount of space to attack on a court, I feel, based on just observation skills, on all the stats I just presented to you, players have figured it out. And one thing that the Warriors defensively are not doing, and you folks just think about this for a little bit and watch us in future games, because I've been seeing this all season long, and tonight really it stuck out to me as something that I think defensively the Warriors have to improve on. At this point in the evolution of basketball, as a defender, when you're defending someone in the perimeter, you cannot let them have open threes. All right. That is an idea that just has to get out of your head permanently, because every player out there, for the most part, can shoot threes. They're damn good at it. And what you see a lot still with the Warriors, and this is Draymond Green doing it, this is Andrew Wiggins doing it, this is everyone doing it. These are some of the best defenders on the planet doing this. They sometimes will either fake blocking the three so that they can prepare for the opposing player to attack the rim and penetrate, because that is what happens if you play up to the man defensively and try to prevent those three-point shots. It makes it a lot easier for them to attack and make the easy two. But when you're playing the law of percentages, the law of numbers, at this stage in the NBA game, you have to favor defending that three and not leaving open threes versus a player having an easier possibility of a driving layup or dunk or some sort of cutter coming in to finish the play. What I'm trying to say is that the Warriors routinely are just leaving open three-point shooters out there, and that just has to end. That has to end. I don't know why they're doing that, but the game of basketball has evolved to the point now where everyone's hitting their three-point shots. If you give someone just the tiniest bit of space, they will burn you for that. And for some reason, the Warriors will still oftentimes just let other teams and players shoot those threes. Like they kind of back off and give space, and that has to stop. That has to stop. That's just from what I'm seeing with the Warriors. That is a part of their defense. I don't know if there's a correlation there between them just, suddenly like leaving these open threes, and that turns into the Warriors defense being one of the worst in the NBA still. And just to put it in perspective, in terms of opponents' points, the Warriors right now are 27th out of 30 teams in the NBA. They give up 117.6 points per game. That's awful. That is just awful. And that's just one thing I have seen is that they're just leaving shooters open. Like like Draymond Green will oftentimes dare shooters to take threes instead of attacking the paint. And they're just going, okay, I'll happily do this. And they're going in. And so that mentality of like the three-point shot is not as likely to go in as you attacking the rim and getting the easy two. That mentality, that philosophy has to stop because it's really burning the Warriors defensively now. So anyways, yeah, I'm done. Tonight is a good example. Jill writes, and this is fair. Jill writes that Cy, they just attacked the freaking paint. Look at Suggs. You're right. And Wagner and Fultz. The Warriors were outscored in the paint 50-26 tonight. You're right. Tonight is not a good example of what I'm trying to say. But generally speaking, as a whole, I mean, we're talking a 40-game sample size now for the NBA with the Warriors. They're doing this routinely. You're right. Tonight, I mean, I don't know if the Magic's points were like driving layups. I feel like Banchero was just backing folks down often. I feel like Franz Wagner was just literally just had open lanes. Like there was just no defense even played. There wasn't even any aggressiveness. It was just really disappointing as a whole. So, but you make a good point. You're absolutely making a good point. I'm just speaking, generally speaking, though, like I'm just seeing a lot of open threes, and it's driving me crazy. And I'm sure you folks feel the same way, I imagine. All right, folks. Thank you. I'm going to go see my good buddy, Larry Krueger. Have a great rest of the weekend. We'll be back at this Monday with Kylan Mills. Yeah, 2020. The halfway point of the season is Tuesday at home when the Golden State Warriors host the Phoenix Suns. And Rebel, damn it, Rebel, you just had to say that because it's so true, man. That is driving me crazy. Even when the Rebel, the Sounds writes, even when the Warriors attack the paint, they do not get calls. That is driving me up the wall. What are you going to do? So it really does feel this year like the Warriors are playing the other team and the officials, and it's just messed up. But yeah. Anyways, all right, folks. Always a pleasure. Thank you. And we'll see you Monday. Have a great weekend. And you can find me again at Larry Krueger's show. I'm going there right now. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Later.